Get started. As everybody knows, we have a 9:30 part of the meeting that should be, hopefully we're done by 11:30, quarter to 12, so we have time to get over and get a bite to eat on the way over, I guess. And then our meeting with the federal delegation starts at 1. So hopefully we can get done what we need to get done this morning, have the delegation meeting, and then be finished for the day. If for some reason we're running over here, then we may finish up after the delegation meeting is over at 1 o'clock or whenever that time is. I sent everybody yesterday an email just kind of adding a couple of items on the agenda. I think for the most part, some of them, the Piney Point discussion, I think everybody wanted to hear something about that. I did want to talk just briefly about the discussion of when we, or I'm assuming we do, want to have some dialogue about the mask ordinance that's in place, when we want to have that discussion. We were going to have, on Tuesday, we would be having an update from staff on where things are and kind of have this whole discussion. The only reason I'm bringing up this item today is that if we want to have the dialogue for the consideration of the ordinance on the 27th, which is the second meeting in April, we have to do some notifications today. And I was talking to Jewel beforehand, and we could have the discussions on that day, and if we choose to take action, it can be to a date certain. It doesn't have to be that the ordinance change wouldn't have to be that day. It could be another date certain. If we go through the discussion on the 27th and we don't really want to make any decisions that day, we can defer it for another meeting and have that discussion. And so, again, the reason today is if there's a appetite for having the consideration of the ordinance this month, then we have to do it then. Jewel, do you have any comments that you'd like to make about it?
I think you've summarized things pretty well. To have a public hearing on the second meeting in April, what your normal advertisement and notice requirements are is an advertisement must be placed in a newspaper of general circulation, which we use the Times, at least 10 days prior to the public hearing. And given the abbreviated publication schedule that the Times now has, as well as just some of the upfront things that need to be done as far as producing the copy and editing it and making sure it's accurate, the absolute deadline to have it to the Times would be basically today. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., everything would have to be completed, so really it needs to be done this afternoon. So that doesn't leave a lot of leeway if you wish to advertise for the second meeting in April. And I think that one thing that we did follow up with the Times, if you go ahead and place it today, we really can't pull it. So in other words, you couldn't have a discussion at your meeting on Tuesday and change your mind. We can't pull it at that point. So this is, really a decision point. If you want to move forward at that second meeting in April, staff could place the ad. Let me be clear, there is no legal requirement that this board vote and direct staff to place an advertisement. We have a long-standing habit of bringing items to you for authority to advertise an upcoming ordinance. That's really just been a long-standing tradition with Pinellas County, and under normal circumstances, the whole point of that is to give you a little bit of insight as to an upcoming ordinance that you may not already be familiar with. Here, of course, you're familiar with what the ordinance is, but regardless, I did want to point out that directing staff by a formal action to advertise a public hearing is not a legal requirement. It's just been a long-standing tradition.
Okay. And the other thing that we talked about, which Jewel's still thinking through a little bit, is if we do it on the 27th and we make it to a date certain, it's not that day. And we decide at the end of that meeting that we're really not ready to do anything, and we decide to come back on May 11th, or the first meeting in May, do we go through that, having to listen to, again, not having to, but needing to listen to our residents again that have had the chance at the previous meeting to air their, in other words, do we want to do 2 sessions of do we have to do 2 sessions of input or not? And I think that's something that you're still thinking through. But, so anyway, I guess really today, it's just if we want to consider the 27th of this month to have the discussion about that ordinance, then I think we need to direct staff to place the ad, and then gives us time to get the word out. And that, and the reason I'm bringing that up is I think the sooner we have the discussion, the better, but that's just my thinking, and that's why I'd like to have it then. So, but I want to open it up to, obviously, you guys. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Seal.
Given that the report this week showed that we're up a little bit on the 7-day average to 6.1%, and our consensus statement from the medical profession says 3%, I might be comfortable if we're around 5, but I would prefer to wait until May 11th and give it one more month.
Commissioner Peters.
So we've probably been the busiest we've been since prior to the pandemic happening. So we're probably going back maybe 2 years since we've had the population in this county that we've had in the last month. And when we met a month ago, we were at, I think, 5.9% or 6.1. So a month ago, we were at 6%. Our hotels have been at 100%. Our restaurants have been at 100%. Well, not at 100% because they can't get workers, but we had so much population, and we've gone from 6.1 to 6.7, you said, with the greatest amount of population we've had in 2 years in this county and this whole state. And I do believe, since we've got, what, about 300, I don't recall the last report, about 320,000 vaccines have been given. 73,000 people have had it. So 73,000 people already have the antibodies without the vaccine. So we're probably at, what, 430,000 people have the antibodies in this county. If we have 1 million people in this county, our last census had us at 900,000. Just like the seniors, like the nursing homes, only 68% took the vaccine. On our senior citizens in the county for the vaccine, about 69% have taken the vaccine. So I'm going to guess that about 30% will not take it. So if 30% won't take it and we're at 430,000, we probably only have about 200,000 more vaccines to give. And that's to the younger people that are healthy. And I really believe that the frustration in the community is so high, the fatigue is so high, many people are not adhering to the rules anyways. There's no fines that we can give according to the governor, so we're enforcing a rule that's really not that enforceable, and people are just frustrated and done. And I think it's time that we take the steps, and if we vote now, and it takes 2 votes, that we could even do time sensitive, that on April 31st versus May 11th, that gives the whole month of April an opportunity for people to kind of get ready. Every business in the county has the right to require masks if they want to. We certainly can still strongly recommend them, but I think it's time. It's been over a year, and I think it's time that we start getting back to normalizing our community, and that's just my opinion. So I think that we should start moving forward now with the process and make it time sensitive, make it April 31st. That would give the rest of the month. The hotels, I believe, are still going to be busy through May, so we're still going to have a high population coming into the community. However, I don't think an uptick from 6.1 to 6.7 is a big enough uptick to have concern on, in my opinion, when our population just like quadrupled this last month.
Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know about any of those numbers you just gave us. There was a lot of numbers in there, and I think the stats, I would question some of your stats, but that's all right. We were supposed to hear a report on Tuesday to give us the data, the backup material, all the comparisons we asked for. The only thing that's changed is that we've got 143, 145 emails full of vitriol, full of incorrect information, full of what I would, some are just flat out lies. And I'm in no position to move forward before we do anything and we hear the report on Tuesday. And it hasn't been a year since we've done the mask.
Anybody else? Commissioner Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm certainly familiar, as I think we all are, of all of the influx of emails that we've been receiving in an effort to encourage us to remove the mask mandate. And what I find at this point almost laughable are the comments that all of those form emails are making at the very end of their email. They all talk about personal responsibility and individual decision-making and the freedom to do whatever they want. And to all of that, I would just like to remind people that nothing could be further from the truth as it relates to our public health and safety and the very lives of our citizens. If that were true, there would be no need for us to have seatbelt laws. There would be no need for us to have speed limits posted on our highway. There would be no need to have anti-texting laws or DUI laws, or, I venture to say, even a police department. If everyone was able to be so responsible for their own actions, we would need none of half of the laws that we have on the books today. And I couldn't agree more with what Commissioner Justice said about some of the vitriol in these emails, with the audacity to say that the only reason that some of us are making the decisions that we are is because we received tens of thousands of dollars in our campaign accounts in order for us to be reelected. I think that is just absolutely hilarious. I don't know when the last time was anybody checked my campaign account. There was certainly no tens of thousands of dollars in there from the DNC, the Triple DC, or anything else resembling party affiliation. For people to suggest this is a partisan ploy, oh yes, let's not forget, we've also been called a group of corrupt public officials. Let me tell you something. I dare say none of us would be sitting here today, or maybe in the world we live in today, having a corrupted, amoral background is what's required to be in office. But all that to say, and I know it's a little strong, but so have some of the emails been strong, and it's impossible to answer every single one of them personally, so hopefully some of those folks are listening today. This sounds very much to me, Mr. Chair, like the conversations that some of us were listening to back in the day when a former commission took fluoride out of our drinking water. Really? This is about leadership, is what we're talking about today, in my opinion. And my opinion is I'm very comfortable with the agenda that has been mapped out for us by our staff. I do think that, yes, I agree with Commissioner Peters about the young people. Young people do think that they are somewhat invincible, and yes, they are running around with no concern for their safety or anyone else's, a lot of it. We're not Pasco County and we're not Manatee County. We have a huge influx of folks from outside of our county coming in and out of our county every day. And while the numbers are up like they are, I have no intention of placing my vote to remove the mask mandate. As far as I know, no one's been arrested for not wearing it. There's a lot of folks, not that many in my coming and going around, who are not wearing it, and that's fine. If they don't want to wear it, that's fine. Nobody's forcing them. We are trying to the best of our ability to show leadership by our actions, by our words, and by our votes. And I am not in favor of taking this up any sooner than the recommendations of the staff. Thank you, and I'm sorry I was so long-winded, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Gerard.
Yeah, I would agree with most of what's been said so far. I don't think I have anything new to add. I think we all know that there are a number of people out there that are tired of the masks. I'm tired of the masks, come on. And those people are not wearing masks. And like you said, they're not getting fined. Nobody's ever been fined, by our police department at least. Restaurants will still, I feel like what we're doing is giving some backup to those restaurants that are going to require people to wear masks, because you think it's ugly now about people getting harassed for not wearing masks. It's going to get ugly if restaurants have to be the ones stopping people at the door saying, you can't come in here unless you have a mask on. Not just restaurants, but also stores and hair salons and all of it. This is our responsibility. And like Commissioner Long said, this is about leadership. And I'm not ready to take down the mask. You can say all those nasty things about me. I could only wish I got tens of thousands of dollars from the DNC. I've never gotten $1 from the DNC, by the way. And it has not been a year. It's been last June, I think.
June 23rd.
Yeah. So, not that I'm hoping it lasts for a year, but I think we're still looking at spring break. We're still looking at, actually, young people are the ones that are driving the increase that we're seeing right now, because most of the older people have been vaccinated. That's wonderful. But as usual, we have to watch out for those young people that think they're invincible. So, thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Flowers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would agree that we should go ahead and wait for the numbers. Any decisions that I make regarding the health and safety of individuals in our county, I think should be factually based, not emotionally based. Just last night, there was a virtual Zoom, just really trying to continue to encourage those in the minority community. Less than 50% of them have actually been vaccinated, mainly because there are so many erroneous rumors related to the vaccine that individuals are still hesitant, despite the fact that there has been an increase in the number of vaccination sites provided in communities of color to try to encourage them to be vaccinated. In the Washington Post, I believe it was 2 days ago, the state of Florida is one of the 5 states that has a continual increase in the number of people who are being diagnosed with the virus. And remember, this is a vaccination, so it doesn't mean that you won't get it. The vaccination means that hopefully your symptoms will not be as severe, and hopefully it decreases the comorbidity rate. In addition, the state of Florida also has one of the largest increase of the variants of the virus. And there is conversation through the medical community, not Renee, that some of the vaccines that we have aren't necessarily working well when it comes to the UK variant. So yes, I agree with your comment, Commissioner Gerard. People are tired of the mask. It's sometimes an inconvenience. I got out the store the other day to go into Publix and I forgot my mask in the parking lot. I had to turn around, go back to my car, get it, and go back in. It was an inconvenience, but I would rather be inconvenienced than to be 6 foot under looking at grass from the other side. So I would rather wait for the numbers and see where they lead us. Some information just came out reducing the potential for reducing your socially distanced area from 6 feet to 3 feet. If that happens, you're going to see more students in schools. You're going to see more people being able to gather in places. And I think what we just saw related to spring break, not just here on our beaches, but just throughout the state of Florida, was all of great concern because those students are going back somewhere. And so I'm not attempting to infringe on anyone's right, but I don't think that others should also infringe on the rights of persons who just want to simply live. So I'd rather wait and hear what those numbers are. I want to make my decisions based on the facts, not mask fatigue, but based on the facts. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you. And I think I heard you all loud and clear that we do not want to hear this on September 27th. So, Jewel, we can just wait till after Tuesday to see if there's a need to advertise for the May meeting or not. So I think that, everybody had a chance to make some comments on their position on masks, and I don't think anybody here has said anything about deviating from what the sciences say. We're going to have to figure out sometime, everybody, how to move into that phase of not having a mask, and it's not going to be perfect. What I think masks have done, which I think is a good thing, is that maybe somebody who has to go back to work in the future will wear a mask so that they're not spreading a flu or a cold or something like that, or this thing or some variant of it. But at some point, we're going to have to rally around that transition, and so that's the first thing. And the second thing is that before Tuesday, I want confirmation, because Barry, you and I talked yesterday, and I've had discrepancies with that. So I just want to make sure we're clear on what the state of emergency at the governor's level means for us, number one, and then also the part of gosh, I'm trying to think the conversation that we had regarding. I just left my mind.
Was it about the fines?
Yeah, it was really it was regarding the science. I'll come back to it, but there is a second point or third point I was going to bring up is the enforceability piece.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm clear, because at one of the orders that came out in March was, I guess, relieving of all the past fines for
Correct.
Businesses.
That's correct.
And so I want to make sure that I'm clear on what that means going forward, because the tendencies are to go back and relieve a fine. So even though it may be we can give a fine out now, not that we are from the sheriff's perspective, the propensity is to get rid of them in arrears. So whether it's enforceable or not, or whether people are doing it or not, I just get some confirmation on that before our
Okay.
Tuesday meeting, so we
We
can have.
certainly can do that. And you're going to get a report tonight, as we promised, that Dr. Cho and I will present on Tuesday, and that'll provide kind of a map of where we're at, what the guidelines are from CDC, what our own report that was done here in the state of Florida and through USF. And so we're going to provide this information for you. It also shows you kind of the trends of the other counties in the state. We'll provide that to you either tonight or tomorrow, in anticipation of our Tuesday meeting. Dr. Cho and I will present it.
And again, I want to continue encouraging us that as we move through this phase and pivoting the conversation from mandating to encouraging.
Yep.
And the other side of it is the whole wellness scheme, trying to bring some piece of that to our residents, whether it's nutrition, whether it's exercise, whatever it is, emotional, mental health issues. I think we need to really start focusing on that a lot more, because I think people healthier will do better with whatever comes their way. So I think that needs to be a focus. But I think the idea of, if we got rid of the mask mandate tomorrow, there's still a sense of what we need to be careful of with each other. And
Yes.
there's still folks going to the grocery stores that are 75 and 85 and 95 years old that they need to be protected for. So there's got to be a conversation about trying to do things for others anyway. And that's where it should be coming from. So I look forward to those spirited dialogues on Tuesday and beyond.
Mr.
But thank
Chair?
you, yes.
Just for clarification, if I could ask a question. Thank you. Barry, when you come back to us on Tuesday, could you also ensure that there is some explanation of the way in which we are paying attention to the numbers? And the reason I say that is because I was having a communication with one of my colleagues in Hillsborough County this morning who referenced that our rate over here in Pinellas was at 9%, and I really just panicked when I heard that. But then I talked with Tom and Jill this morning when I first came in, and they had an explanation for that. And I think for our citizens, it might be wise to point that out as well, just because if we're all not looking at the same thing, it can be easy to misinterpret the data.
we'd be happy to go through that.
Thank you, Mr.
You know, we really have tried to use averages over some period of time because of reporting, because of, you know, day spikes. Our testing is down. That is going to skew the numbers, people going there probably sicker. So, but you can look at the pure numbers, the number of people, you know, getting a positive test. So there's several different ways to look at it. Some of the comments that you've got that I disagree overall, it's a valid point in terms of, you know, who's showing up at the testing sites. So we can go over all that, and Dr. Cho will be here, and, you know, he's really the expert in terms of looking at the way in which to look at our data. But
Yeah, I think to that point, you know, there is thought that as you come out of these things, like right now, that number, that percent positive number, will have less value to track than other numbers. And I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah.
So I think to having that conversation
Absolutely.
will be helpful for all of us to absorb. So thank you for that conversation. And then on the second item, which is the executive assistant position, I'm assuming that we're all okay moving in the same direction that we did a year and a half ago or whatever it was. And we're going to try to get somebody on board. We've talked to personnel, and we've talked to O&B. So we're going to try to get somebody on board June 1. It will be fortunate if we do, but that's the idea. So no change in direction on that? Am I seeing okay for that? Okay, so we'll move in that same item, and then we can get started with the regular agenda.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So you have a couple items for discussion this morning. I'm going to ask Kelly Levy to come up. She's going to talk to you about the coastal storm risk management feasibility study. She can also provide you an update on Piney Point.
So good morning. The item that you have before you is a letter of support to the Army Corps of Engineers. Many of you know that for quite some time we have been looking to extend the reauthorization of the Treasure Island Beach Renourishment Project, which was originally scheduled to expire in 2019. It has been extended 2 times, currently scheduled to expire in 2025. And then due to the closeness of Long Key's deadline, expiration date of 2030, we asked the Corps to look at them together. And after they've completed their initial work on this study and developed a recommendation, and I know we have talked about this before, that the county, as well as the cities of Treasure Island and St. Petersburg Beach, we have some concerns about the recommended alternative, which includes a 10-foot NGVD dune, which then extends out 20 feet and then slopes down towards the water. So it was a lot more extensive than we anticipated the recommendation to be. However, after meeting with the Corps and having these conversations, we all agree that the number one issue here is ensuring the reauthorization moves forward. And so the Army Corps requires a letter of support for their study recommendation to move this forward, as well as a financial authorization that the Ken Burke has provided. Those 2 items are incorporated into the Army Corps' chief report, which summarizes the Army Corps' findings and makes a recommendation. And we will continue to work with Corps on what that final design looks like, and that would be scheduled for construction in 2028 if everything moves forward.
Are there any questions for Kelly? Oh, Commissioner Seal.
Feasibility, cost sharing, are we going to have enough in tourist development funds to be able to fund our share?
Yes, our current share, we would be paying more. Mm-hmm. So under this scenario, I think our percentage increased, I want to say to 58% from like 38%. So it would, initially, the Corps pays, the full amount, and then our cost share would be higher. Mm-hmm. So we would have to kind of project that out and see what that looks like. But these are smaller projects when you compare them to Sand Key. which is our really big one.
And will the Army Corps require easements?
In this particular area, we already have what we need.
Okay.
But for what we have, it is highly likely we would need more easements in order to construct the preferred alternative, correct?
To construct what?
Their preferred alternative,
Oh,
which is
okay.
the dune system, yeah.
But that would include going on to their property in that case, right? The individual properties. I mean,
Yeah.
the idea behind these, getting the easements are, the argument that we've been making in the other case was that they're not even getting onto the property with the nourishment.
Yeah,
In
the
thi-
sand key is,
Yeah.
yeah, that's.
In this case, they would be.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, correct. What the chair is saying is, with regard to Sand Key and some of the challenges we're having is that some of the easements that are being requested, there's no planned work there. In this case, the preferred alternative would be constructed on the private property. So we would need those easements in order to construct.
And that makes both of them make logical sense. If we can get logic extended
Yeah.
to the core, that would be great.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Any other questions? And I guess we're saying, we're kind of nodding our heads and saying this is a good thing. And
Yeah, this is a presentation, doesn't require action, but we wanted to bring it for you so we saw the consensus of the board in terms of the path forward.
well, there is a letter here for me to sign, so
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. Yeah, Commissioner Long?
So Kelly, I have a question, pardon me if it's a little, not correct, but just common sense is telling me to put beach renourishment sand in one place on the north end and then skip some properties and go to the south end. I mean, that's not going to keep Mother Nature from messing that all up almost immediately, is it?
Well, Treasure Island and Long Key there's different dynamics in that area of our beach system. Really, you've got Sunshine Beach on the north side of Treasure Island. It's highly erosional. If you've been down there after Tropical Storm Eta, you can see it. We've requested emergency repair dollars for Treasure Island. The Corps did not determine that Eta was a significant storm, so that did not come to fruition. They did advise us of some potential work plan dollars that were not expended that we might be able to get, so we did ask them to pursue that for us so that we can make those repairs. So the wave dynamics in that area are just different. They're not wholly connected to what's going on in Sand Key. So, but with regard to the statement generally, you're absolutely correct. So if it makes it very challenging to have a successful project if we're nourishing Clearwater but not nourishing Bel Air Beach. We're nourishing Bel Air Beach but not nourishing Indian Rocks Beach. The project will not be as successful, will not be as resilient, will not provide the return on investment, and that's part of the challenge we have is, the Corps looks at things through a cost-benefit ratio, and if they can't, and if the data doesn't support that it's going to perform to a certain standard, then they don't recommend moving forward. And so that's been part of our challenge up there.
Well, may I have a follow-up?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
So my follow-up is, I know this is heresy to suggest it, but do we need to have a different type of a conversation? Because in my head, I'm thinking, this is just going to be an ongoing issue with millions and millions of dollars being spent that are just getting poured down a rabbit hole that's never ending.
Yeah, I know that the beach easements are on the agenda for this afternoon with the legislative delegation, but there is a very strong possibility if the Corps and the local sponsor, us, if we can't get over this hurdle, that the 2024 nourishment will not happen, which means the next time we would be eligible for a nourishment would be 2030. And I don't know. I don't live on the beach. I can say if I were a waterfront property owner, I would be very concerned about the concept of that beach being out there from today in 2021 to 2030 with no additional projects out there to reinforce what we have. And that's part of that long-term conversation, is because the project with the Corps has been so successful. We have a really nice beach built up out there in most areas. We do have highly erosional areas like Dan's Island up in Clearwater, Sunshine Beach down Treasure Island, some other areas that are considered highly erosional. But for the most part, we have these wide, very wide beach berms, and that has occurred because of the nourishment cycle. If we start interrupting that cycle, those areas are going to get eroded into, and that beach is not going to perform the way it has performed, during storms. And that is really our greatest concern, is that the likelihood of a storm not impacting us in almost a 10-year period is, well, not good.
Mr. Chair, if you might indulge me for if I take off all my hats, put my insurance hat on, and focus on the way in which the new FEMA flood maps are being drawn. I am just almost in a panic mode over the fact that they're using data. I could be totally wrong, but this is what I know today. They are using data from 2012. Now just think about that. They're already using antiquated data and have been for decades. Now they're updating the maps with data that's from 2012, and this is 2021. On top of that, they're recommending that our coastal they're just wanting to take away the restrictions we have today for where and how you build along the beaches and make them more accessible. All of which, in my mind, is creating an enormous death trap. Am I just off on another planet somewhere with the way I'm thinking? Because I think we need to have this conversation with our federal partners this afternoon. Don't you all agree?
We are bringing forward to you at your April 22nd workshop. You are going to get a preview of our vulnerability assessment, and as well as we're going to have a conversation, bring to you a conversation about the proposed FEMA changes. And to your point about the data, we're going to share with you, you're correct, their data is old, and the foundation for their model is LIDAR, that land elevation data from 2007. So it is much older than the data that we utilized for our vulnerability assessment. And so we are going to present to you the comparison between the two so that you can see that difference on the 22nd. So we will have that for you.
But that's the 22nd, and our meeting is this afternoon. And since FEMA is at the federal level, don't we need to be putting our congressional people on notice that this is a huge snowball rolling downhill? It's not going to help.
It is on the agenda for this afternoon, and so we will be presenting our beach nourishment easement issue. As you know, Congressman Chris has been at the forefront of trying to advance this item. We just haven't made progress, with the Corps of Engineers.
Yeah, Kelly, on the point that Commissioner Long is raising, I'm assuming, again, that any point in time that the Corps has ever done anything, or FEMA's done, these things are always done with old data. I'm just assuming that when we did it in 2010, it was using 2000 data. Or is this just a unique time where we're using old data? Is it always that way?
Well, we were told that we were going to receive the new maps in 2012. So this is, I don't know, I do know that they had a lot of turnover. They had 3 different consulting firms involved in the development of the maps. I'm not exactly sure what really resulted in the delay that we have had, but yes, I mean, in hindsight, I mean, obviously the data is, not present day, but it's not typically this old. And the other challenge is that these maps will likely be on the books for 10 years before new maps are developed, and the data has us concerned, so.
Yes, Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Notwithstanding the points, the issues that were just brought up, I thought this was more of a global, long-term partnership that was kind of not an automatic renewal because we are changing the financials, but more of a renewal of the partnership that we have with the federal government more than a specific on the easements and those type of things.
Correct. Yes, this specific item is related to the chief's report, the letter that we need to submit for the chief's report to move the reauthorization approval forward. And again, so just so you're aware, I know I said Treasure Island is scheduled to expire in 2025. Long Key is scheduled to expire in 2030. In order to get the benefit to cost ratio that Army Corps needs to even recommend approval, they had to combine those into one project. So now we would not, if this gets approved, we will not have separate reauthorizations for those 2 projects. We will have one new reauthorization for the combined project.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Kelly on that? Okay, well, let's go to the other the presentation you have for us this morning.
All right. Okay, so, is it moving? No. It's on. So. Thank you. All right, so what I've got up here is kind of a map of the area. And just as, try to use the pointer, the stack with the seepage is here, and this is called New Gypsum Stack South, okay? This stack here is New Gypsum Stack North, and these are the old gypsum stacks. This is Old Gyp Stack North, Old Gyp Stack South, and this is called the lined process water sump. So essentially, the water has been being pumped out of New Gypsum Stack South, out through a drainage system, out through berth 12 at Port Manatee. For a period of time ending April 3rd, there was a discharge that followed the drainage ditch and went out here to Piney Creek. And that was ceased, that discharge did cease on April 3rd. And so that is a good thing that they were able to get that stopped. Additionally, in order to, obviously this drainage system that's throughout this property got very full with the seepage water that's coming out of this gyp stack here. And in order to create capacity, they pumped water from here into this gyp stack here and filled this as well. And then this was tied in to this drainage system here. They're also storing some processed water in this cell here, which is Old Gyp Stack North. It is a closed gyp stack, and so the only thing that was in there before, prior to this event, was stormwater, so they did need additional capacity to store water on site. So in order, again, to keep all the water on site and manage it, in one discharge point, they've been moving water around various places. So some numbers. So as of yesterday, they had pumped about 173 million gallons of water out through the port into Tampa Bay. They're pumping at a rate of 38 million gallons a day. So if that pump rate holds, we'll be over 200 million gallons by close of business today. Some good news out of our afternoon report with DEP yesterday was that the seepage in the gyp stack here had greatly reduced over the 24-hour period of time, and that's what ultimately resulted in one, you've got the Army Corps of Engineer, dam experts out there, you've got EPA, you've got DEP, you've got Ardeman and Associates, which DEP brought in for their expertise, as well as DEP engineers and gyp stack experts and Southwest Florida Water Management District experts, and they have done a complete inspection of the site. And with that, with the reduction in the flows and with their inspection and their analysis, they made the recommendation that the evacuation order could be lifted, US 41 could be reopened. The only road that's still closed is the one here that's Buckeye Road, and businesses are allowed ingress, egress, but they still wanted to maintain that one to be closed. One of the conversations that we heard yesterday was that they are considering shutting down one of the pumps to see if that has an impact on the seepage. Because the seepage rate has declined so much, they want to see if they stop pumping, if that rate holds. They are hoping within the next 24 hours to have a treatment system online to treat at least half of the flows going to Tampa Bay. They have a contractor who is bringing in submersibles to try to visualize the area of the tear or the damage to the embankment to get a visual on that. The water is sufficiently low in the in that new gyp stack south, such that they can tell from an area of vibration and noise approximately where that is. They still haven't put eyes on it, but they think they know approximately where that is, and the submersibles will be used to get a visual on that. There was a report yesterday that said that divers might be going in, and then that is not the case. They do not intend to put any humans into the gyp stack. It's about submersible. So just a clarifying point there. On the environmental side, sorry, go to the next slide. That just gives you kind of a pullback of the discharge, and then that's the ditch that's going out to Tampa Bay along the port there. And just so you can see, its proximity to Pinellas County.
Kelly,
Yes.
before you jump into the environmental, back on the other one, I was watching the Manatee Commission meeting, and they were talking about having a well either built, or maybe they already have a well that some of this, is this the water that they're talking about that would eventually be put into that well? Or had you heard anything about that?
They are discussing deep well injection as a method of a tool to help in the eventual closure of this facility. The good news is that has been the message that they've been sharing with us loud and clear, is they do not intend to let this place sit the way it is. They do intend to properly remove that wastewater and to close this facility, fill those stacks with sediment, cap it, and close it in perpetuity so that this never happens again.
And I think they were also mentioned about, in that case, they would be treating the water further before they went into that deep injection well. So, I mean, it wasn't just taking that and putting it into the ground. And that I guess the movement of the water in that area underground is towards the west, at a very slow rate. I'm just wondering what you're hearing on that front. And the reason I'm asking that is because this obviously is not going away for a while. So just wondering how they're going to be dealing with this going forward.
Well, just to be clear, something else. This stack here, new gyp stack north, has been disconnected from the rest of the system. And if you look you probably can't see on this aerial, but if you were to go to Google Earth and zoom in really close, you're going to see what looks like lines on it. And if you get a side view of it, what it is an evaporation system. And so that has been in place for quite some time. Additionally, they have tied in a pump from New Gypstack North to the Manatee County wastewater treatment system, and they pump up to 150,000 gallons a day to Manatee County for treatment. They also have some emerging technology companies on the property to see what types of technologies they can bring to the table to help treat some of this water. A deep well injection, obviously there are significant standards to what can be pumped into those wells, and I'm sure, and that would be years away. That takes a lot of planning and a lot of permitting, and I'm sure there will also be. I'm hoping that they will also be looking at other alternatives. We really need to keep our options open as to how we successfully close this as a community. And I do say community because we've been involved in Tampa Bay for a very, very long time, and so we are doing everything we can to help our colleagues. And
Okay. Thank you, Kelly. Go ahead.
so again, this is kind of just a pulled out view, and the ditch where the water is ultimately heading out to Tampa Bay along berth 12 at the port. And then I just wanted to share, and I've got the website at the bottom. You can access this actually from pinellascounty.org if anybody's interested. If you just go to pinellascounty.org, right on the front page, there's a link to Piney Point resources, and this link is there. There's a Twitter feed. There's updates from the state. They have their water quality dashboard available for data that the state is collecting. And then our partners, the Tampa Bay Estuary Program, is they have their portal, which I have up here as well. And again, you can link to this from the county website. And they are posting Hillsborough County data, Manatee County data, Pinellas County data, all of our regional data out here for the public, so that we can continue to monitor impacts. I also want to give a shout out to the University of South Florida. It's the same group that really stepped up for us during Red Tide to help us understand where those blooms might be going. Well, they're doing the same thing here, and they've given us some maps yesterday to help us refine our monitoring strategy. The wind was out of the northeast, so it was really kind of keeping the plume hugging the Manatee County coast. The wind is shifting out of the southwest, so we will get another view of that and then adapt our strategy dependent on what that shows.
Kelly,
yes, sure.
On that one shot of the bay that you pulled back on, I know 12 miles up the road, I guess, is the TECO plant and where we take water in for our water system. Obviously, there's no issues with that yet. But is it on that map? I couldn't see it. I was wondering if maybe it's not.
See. You may be able to see it better than me. Let's see. It may be up further.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have been sharing everything with
Thank you.
Chuck and Jack. So, and they've also been corresponding with me as well. So,
Okay.
we're all in the loop together.
Thank you.
And so, just from a perspective of bay management, if we were to go out and collect a sample, like one of those purple dots is Pinellas County, and just take a sample and take it to the laboratory and have the nitrogen content run, and specifically for ammonia, which is one of our constituents of concern in this wastewater, the value would be about as close to zero as you can come. It's just not prevalent in the natural environment because it's so biologically available. It's taken up very quickly. The numbers on the water that we have available being pumped out there is 215 milligrams per liter. So it's significantly higher than anything you would ever find in the natural environment. The estuary program is estimated that, the load is right now around, it'd be the equivalent of about 200,000 bags of fertilizer just going out there all at once. You may be aware that we are under a reasonable assurance plan for Tampa Bay. It's out of a federal determination regarding water quality in the bay. We have had the Nitrogen Management Consortium for a very long time, comprised of local governments, comprised of Piney Point and TECO and Duke Energy and everybody who has a discharge going into the bay. And we have worked collaboratively for a very long time to ensure that we meet these targets through projects and programs that we implement collaboratively. This discharge, exceeds our annual load allocation all by itself. So it's like over a year's worth of nitrogen in a very, very short period of time. The impacts from this could be weeks down the road, months down the road. It really depends a lot on how it's entrained in where it goes in the bay, and a lot of other factors. So we won't know for weeks or months to come the ultimate impact on the environment. So I do know if you go out there right now, it's absolutely gorgeous. It looks beautiful, but it's, we're going to have to watch it very, very closely to ensure that we can effectively monitor and effectively evaluate what ultimately happens. So again, this is a huge effort by a lot of groups coming together very quickly, and a big shout out to everybody. DEP, US EPA is down, estuary program, University of South Florida Marine Science went out yesterday and deployed sensors. All of our Manatee County, Pinellas County Environmental Protection Commission of Pinellas, everybody is come together like we do to protect and manage the bay. And big shout out. I think this is obviously a terrible thing, but the work that has gone on, those folks working out at Piney Point themselves are absolutely exhausted. And when they're on the calls in the afternoon, they're absolutely exhausted, and yet they take the time to answer every question we have. And I can't thank them enough for that.
Kelly, is there any other areas that we're monitoring at all that we have these kind of concerns about around the Tampa Bay, or is this just one all by itself that sits out there as a?
I'm not really all that familiar with all the gyp stacks. Obviously, we had Mulberry years ago. That was a major concern and issue. But I do know that yesterday, the executive director of the Hillsborough County Environmental Protection Commission spoke to her board, and they have asked her to look at the gyp stacks within Hillsborough and make that evaluation. I know that now this is going to be this is going to be something that's looked at across the board, and how they're managed and how we ensure these things don't happen in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we're continually checking our reservoir for Tampa Bay water to make sure that it's holding. And so when you get all those extra rains that we get, it fills up and puts more pressure on the sides. And so I would have imagined that would have been something that was always being looked at, and other areas that we have concerns about should be being looked at proactively. But, okay, thank you. Commissioner Flowers? Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Manatee County Commission voted unanimously to approve deep well injecting for this particular issue. So I know it'll have to go through whatever permitting processes it will need to go through. But I find that very interesting, since the state legislature is looking at fining municipal governments for deep well injecting. So I'm not sure how that process will work. But the other concern that I have, and Congressman Chris has began holding a couple of roundtable or community discussions regarding the potential impact on our fishing industry from the release of this water into Tampa Bay, as well as just hearing from persons who are commercial fishermen and how they have struggled recently because of COVID, and now they have an opportunity to try to start back making a living, and now this. So I would agree with you that we don't know what the full impact will be, but I think we're beginning to see some of the impact. The water that, Commissioner Eggers, did you share that there is a potential for them to want to treat this water additionally prior to deep well injecting? Because deep well injecting supposedly pushes the water underneath the aquifer that we pull from for drinking water, but it still has to have the right type of sediment or the right type of bedrock so that that water doesn't percolate back up. But there's no guarantee that it won't percolate back up and get into or contaminate where we pull from for our wells for drinking water. So this is a big issue all around. I know you know that and others know that. But this is a tremendous issue all the way around. And I guess for us as a county, I'm glad someone just asked the question, do we have any other potential sites that this may happen to? Because for us as a county, it would be looking at the potential of this type of risk or to relinquish any type of risk so that we can try to manage it prior to getting to this level. My question is, the owners of, I know these gypsum stacks were vacated a long time ago. Is there any way that they are still held financially responsible for trying to help mitigate this? Not just Manatee County, Pinellas County, and others coming up trying to find a solution. But is there anything that still holds them responsible in any way for this calamity? Because these are their gypsum stacks that they left or abandoned years ago, and that would help with some of the cost in trying to get all of this cleaned up.
Yes, there is, and there hasn't been a lot of conversation about it, but I'm sure there will be. The current owner is ultimately responsible, so more to come on that. But yes, there are mechanisms to hold the property owner accountable, and so we'll see how that plays out.
Okay, thank you. I'd rather see that being done rather than utilizing $200 million of some of the funds that are coming from the federal government that could be going somewhere else and doing some other good work versus, governments paying for their mess. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate the comments that Commissioner Eggers as well as Commissioner Flowers made about what else is out there that we don't know, because it certainly isn't lost on me that this issue has been percolating since 1966, and there were many folks down in Manatee who have known about it all that time, that it was just an environmental disaster waiting to happen. So I surely would appreciate an opportunity to be looking at some other potential problems like that, that started a long, long time ago and maybe have just been either overlooked or sat on or not dealt with. And it's always about it costs too much money to deal with it. And the problem is when you have that kind of mentality, you end up paying a lot more in the end. So research done on that might be helpful to us as we move forward. Secondly, I agree with Commissioner Flowers on the issue about deep well injection. I don't know how they get away with that. If, for those of us that have learned or studied or know anything about our own aquifer, that's just one more reason why Pinellas County is such an environmentally sensitive place, because our whole county sits on an aquifer that's constantly moving. Obviously, we cannot control what's going on underneath the ground, but our drinking water, a lot of our drinking water comes from there, and I think we have to be very, very sensitive to any kind of bad stuff going down through that layer under us. And so I appreciate those of you that sit on Tampa Bay Water paying particular attention to that. And that's all I have to say about that. I mean, my last comment, Kelly, is Are there any opportunities for mitigation now to keep a potential disaster for happening later in the summer as we move into the hot and hotter weather?
Unfortunately, while they're, and I do want to point out that yesterday, the department reported that they had removed so much water from New Gypstack South that, it's even below the liner level, so they've had to recalibrate their survey, and that is going to allow them to inspect the entire Nitrogen Management Consortium. The general analogy was it takes about 30 days for us to see, when nitrogen enters the bay, for us to see a response in chlorophyll. Whether that holds true in this case, I don't know, because it is ammonia. And we are working very closely with Dr. Weisberg, and he's doing everything he can to get us the best available data. Like I said, he did give us some maps yesterday that showed it pretty much staying entrained along Manatee County's coast. They sent us south to Tiracea a couple of days ago, and as a result of his new modeling, that water is now moving north, and so they've shifted our monitoring to the north of the port. So we are continuing to adapt to the data, and unfortunately, I can't give you a definitive answer more other than we'll find out.
Okay. Yeah, and I understand we're speculating a lot, and you're relaying the info that you have from down there. Do you know what the plan is? They're able to visualize the tear now, or they will be able to. I guess my question is, how many gallons do we need to lower that to where we can stop pumping into the bay and we can take other remediation action?
They didn't quite answer that question, but what they're doing is they haven't visualized it. They can't see a tear. What they're seeing are vibrations in the water, and they can hear the noise. So that's how they've kind of ballparked the location. The water, as of yesterday afternoon, was at an elevation of 57, and that's pretty significant to drop a facility. I think it was 59 at 59 feet the day before, and yesterday it was down in the 57s is what they relayed to us. At elevation 50, they said they're going to be very concerned about fine silts and muck. And so at that point in time, if they're pumping highly turbid water, they're going to have to stop. So it may not be a specific elevation. It may be a water quality condition that ultimately determines that. And like I did say, they're hoping today to have be able to treat at least 50% of the water going out.
Okay. And again, just want to thank you and your staff and Mr. Sherwood and his team at Estuary Program, who were sharing information all weekend and getting us up to date as possible. And the governor's website and a lot of good information being shared, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's really important. We've started to get, obviously, calls and things from our residents as well, and so the more we can feed out what we know, the better. That deep well injection discussion, though, that Commissioner Flowers was talking about, I mean, even a proposed water project from City of Tampa is involving a deep well injection system that would take their reclaimed water, treat it even to a higher level, and then inject that water. There's a lot of ramifications for Tampa Bay water, but there's also some environmental things. They haven't been permitted yet. I mean, it's got a long way to go, but on many fronts. But that is an issue that continues to concern. I mean, there's concern for what to do with reclaimed water. There's concern with deep well injection. I know for this too, it's going to be closely monitored. So thank you. Just one last question on this. All those ponds that we had up there, not all of them were at risk. It was the bigger pond that you were showing I guess the southern new gypsum stack was the one that was,
Yes, there's only one seep. There was a media alert a couple of days ago that there was a second breach. There was never a second breach at all. It's just that one, and they're not. It's not a breach. The embankment has not failed. It's a seepage at the TOA slope.
yeah. I mean, it's obviously the largest, at least from the surface area, the largest pond. But if its failure does not have any bearing on the safety of the other ones, or it does?
No, well, you know, there was some concern that if there was a failure, that it could impact, you know, the stability of that north pond. But generally, there was no observation of any issues at all beyond that seepage that I'm aware of. I also just one last shout out because I forgot. Obviously, our Visit St. Pete Clearwater and their partners have also been meeting, and they have information on their websites as well for our tourism community. So, again, these types of issues always, you know, are very collaborative, and I just want to make sure I'm hitting all of our partners and thanking everybody for the work that they're doing.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Appreciate the update. Okay, we're going to move on to item 2, which is North Greenwood Community Redevelopment Agency in Clearwater. And Barry, I know we have
Yeah,
presentation.
Evan Johnson is here. He's going to provide you an update regarding the development of the North Greenwood CRA in Clearwater.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Yes, you can. All right, I'm Evan Johnson, Planning Division Manager, and I'm going to walk you through a request from the City of Clearwater to delegate authority for the creation of the North Greenwood CRA just north of the downtown in Clearwater. And I do have a presentation to walk you through real quick. There we go. So the city has gone through a finding of necessity process, which is what's required with the statutes in order to begin the establishment of a new community redevelopment area. They looked at 6 areas, which you can see on the screen, as part of their analysis for this North Greenwood CRA. They looked at, well, their consultant working with the city looked at socioeconomic data, crime, code enforcement, typical things that you would look at for a finding. They also conducted significant field work and collected information that way as well. The initial conclusions that were made, the recommendation from the consultant was that areas 3 and 5 met the criteria for the finding of necessity and could be created as a CRA. My understanding is staff in the city then asked them to also look at Area 1, which is to the southwest there, just north of downtown as well, and kind of assess that along with 3 and 5, which they did. And when they did that analysis as part of their finding, they did find adequate conditions per the statutes, and that is the boundary that was approved by the city back in, I want to say, October, and then was brought to us to go ahead and review the finding. The process itself, where we are, so October 14th was when they were approved for the finding of necessity, for a finding of blight, essentially is what the statutes requires. They sent us a letter requesting review in November. We provided a comment letter and a review in January. We met with them in February, formally with their consultant as well as staff, and we received responses to our comments and questions on the 12th of February. And at that point, we found that everything that they had submitted was sufficient and met what we would consider adequate information, and they had answered our questions about data and analysis, those types of things. The next steps for us will be to come back to you all, hopefully before May 16th, as that is there's a statutory deadline that requires counties to make a decision, a determination on a finding of necessity like this, a delegation of authority, within a certain number of months. We have gotten an extension from the city as we've continued to work with them on this, but that extension runs out in May. So our hope is to bring it back in May to you all for a public hearing. And then they're going to begin their planning process. Essentially, they start their working with the community, which they've been engaged throughout this process, to actually develop a CRA plan, and they'll bring it back. The last bullet there is important. I've been here before recently to talk about the CRA policy update process. We will be evaluating their plan with that new policy in place. So when they come back, say, probably after the first quarter of 2022, we would then use our new policy and the scoring criteria and all of that to then make a recommendation as to TIF funding amounts and things like that. That's typically when that would occur in this process, and that will be what happens with this one moving forward. But the new policy will apply to the CRA moving forward. So just real quick, this is the boundary that, the final boundary that was approved. It's about 650 acres. It includes most of what, all of what would be considered that North Greenwood neighborhood within the city of Clearwater. The taxable value is about $200 million currently, about 303 per acre. This is one of the at-risk zones, and I did mention that this is kind of the North Greenwood area within Clearwater, but as you all most likely know and recall, that extends all the way down to Largo as well, that area that was identified in the Economic Impacts of Poverty study. Their finding did meet state requirements and we found it to meet those requirements as far as that basic level of approval. This is an area that we've all recognized is in need of redevelopment and support. So generally, we are supportive of this application, and we've been working closely with staff along that. Up in the north, you'll see some unincorporated enclaves within the CRA boundary itself. Those are excluded from the CRA. And generally, what we've told city staff working with them is the fact that if they do annex properties over time voluntarily, and they want to bring any of those in, that they would have to amend their plan to do that, and they would have to bring it back to us for that discussion. And strongly encourage them not to do it piecemeal, because that could get quite messy when you're dealing with tax increment and the property appraiser and all of that. So we went back and forth on that, and we're on the same page with that as well. There was one area that we wanted to bring up to you all as part of this discussion. As I mentioned, from a statutory standpoint, the analysis does meet the criteria for a blighted area, the whole 650 acres. But this waterfront area, which was originally part of the southwest sub-area, that sub-area number, I think that was one, but that's the downtown sub-area in the southwest. We looked at those parcels west of Osceola and Osceola Avenue. And really, these popped out as different in character, right? You have new condo development. You've got a new construction of a new condominium going on right now. The marina itself has been experiencing some improvements. I will say that the acreage is incorrect. We identified that with the help of the city. It's actually 24.7 acres, give or take. So that tax value per acre in this specific area, in that yellow boundary, is about 1.8 million per acre. So it is higher value land, it's on the water, and there are some significant condo developments in that area right now. There is the new development, specifically Marina Bay 880 is in the just north of the marina, which is all the way just south of, so basically between the marina and Cedar Street on the north is where Marina Bay 880 will be located. That is a new condo mixed-use project that is currently under construction now. And the other big area of new development that's going on is in the southwest corner near Jones Street, just north of Jones and against the water. And that's, I have limited information on that. We've done some research, but it's Scientology owns that area. So it is a project for them. It's called Ocean View, but it is unclear at this point, at least from our perspective of the county, whether or not the uses there will be taxed at a certain value. We just don't know there because the way in which religious organizations can be taxed or not. So the last piece I wanted to bring up, and this is specific, we wanted to look a little further at that waterfront area just to give you a sense of what that new development, that water-oriented development means to, say, a TIF contribution over time. The first bullet, we did a 20-year TIF projection for the whole 650 acres, 2.5% increase in tax value per year. Full contribution, we're looking at about $6.2 million for the county over a 20-year period. So if we came back and we approved it and everything just kind of grew at that 2.5, that's what we would be looking at. Now, That, of course, because when we look at a smaller area like this and we have some significant redevelopment occurring, you can actually look at those specific redevelopments and see specifically what they would produce from a TIF perspective. So we looked at the Marina Bay 880, and the important numbers here are you have $6 million at the top, and you have a low scenario and a high scenario below for Marina Bay, and that's really just depends on what the taxable value comes out as. But that could be anywhere from $9 to $11 million of total TIF, depending on how much that property is valued. And that's just indicative of the waterfront property and the type of development that's going on. So we wanted to bring that to your attention because we did feel that this area was different in character, and wanted to hear any thoughts you might have along those lines. And I will leave it here because I think my last slide just speaks to questions and what we're going to do next in the process. Yes, sir.
So on that, just so I'm clear, when you talk about Marina Bay 880 development, that has to do with that entire yellow area? Or
No,
just that particular development?
Just that particular development north of the marina.
So at this point, because it's just valued at land because it's not been
Correct.
assessed
And this,
yet?
exactly. And this accounts for, we took the land value out and then just added what is projected to be the value of the development.
If the development were in place today and we had a base year
Correct.
in play,
Correct.
then the increases would be the TIF, not the base value of the property.
That is correct, and that's a really good point. And the development is under construction now. And when it comes online and when the units are sold and hit the tax rolls will ultimately affect how much is considered base value and how much is considered TIF. So typically the way condos are valued is just because the building's there, you don't actually collect tax on that until such time that you're selling the units. So if you sold all the units, I think we estimated if you sold all the units, it could be somewhere in the neighborhood of like $38 million if they were like $400,000 units or something. But we don't know exactly when those will hit the rolls. They could hit the roll if they start pulling COs this year.
That are still blighted, but there's been a lot of activity there, and we knew that waterfront was going to develop way before we approved the CRA, so I have a problem with excluding it.
Yeah, so just on that point there, let's just say that we do include one in it, or at least that's ours, we're going to go along with the city's request. How do we control how the funds are distributed through 1, 3, and 5? I mean, I don't want one to be a part of this if monies generated in 1, 3, and 5 end up in 1.
Right. So
I mean, I think it can go both ways.
Sure.
And so, I mean, and I'm not saying at all that that's what the city commissioners are talking about, but I just want to make sure that, you know, we're really talking about funds going from west to east, not from east to west. So
yes.
But
So what we have discussed, and we've gone back and forth with the CRA policy recommendations, and we're trying to kind of walk the line of creating something that's robust, but at the same time not so complicated that it just costs a lot of staff time and causes more heartache. So generally what we have come to, at least for our latest recommendations, is that when the CRA plan is developed, we're asking CRAs to produce kind of 10-year capital plans, that they make sure to show us when we're bringing the plans forward to you all that there is a geographic distribution of the investments that are being made. But we are not in a position necessarily to enforce it year by year. Ultimately, it would be at the midpoint review when we would have that conversation to say, well, this is what you said you did, this is what you actually did, and therefore we could take actions one way or the other as it relates to our TIF contribution.
yeah, understand. I got it. Commissioner Flowers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation and for the slides. And I think we have some members of the CRA requests that
Yes,
are
we do.
here in the back. So thank you all for coming and showing your support. One of the things that I've learned from the CRA in St. Petersburg is that the strength of any new development through the CRA dollars is based on whether or not that city municipality actually takes the recommendation from the CAC committee. And unfortunately, in St. Pete, that hasn't happened all the time. The CAC committee makes a recommendation, it gets up to leadership in the city, and they make their own presentation. And so one of the things that I feel more comfortable about with Mayor Hibbard and Mr. Bill Horn and their council members is that they have taken the time to really massage this plan and work through it with the community. So I have a greater level of confidence that we would not see the infusion of the dollars in Area 1 prior to seeing some true mobilization of those dollars in Areas 3 and 5. My 2 cents is keep one in. Yes, we are beginning to see the development and the forward movement and construction in that waterfront area. But the fact of the matter is that to get to that waterfront area, you're going to be coming through 3 and 5. And so to provide that additional support that they will get through the CRA allows for that development so that it flows and flows naturally. Development's going to occur on this waterfront, prime property, so it's going to happen. And I do know that because we've had conversations since I've been here, whenever we're implementing these CRAs or approving them, it does look at the revenue that would otherwise come to the county for us to implement certain things that we have a responsibility to implement. But if we did not have the CRAs, we would still have a request from the community to try to help them with economic development and their growth management plans, and we would still be contributing to them in one financial way or the other. So it is also my understanding that there has not been any adverse opine from either the developers in one or the city in regards to including one.
Right. So
having received that information, I support 1, 3, and 5. Let's keep the lines contiguous. The infusion of those dollars once those units are sold can go into that community, and we would see, I believe, a quicker redevelopment of the Greenwood community, so that it's not lagging so far behind. Because again, I'm seeing what's happening on the other end in St. Pete, and unfortunately, there are parts that you couldn't even tell the CRA was supposed to be in St. Pete along 22nd Street. So thank you so much for your work. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you to the City of Clearwater, and thank you to the members of the Greenwood community that are here. I know they put in a lot of hard work and time and hours, but I really do believe that through establishment of that CAC committee, that's what I'm calling it, that they will be able to really assure that those dollars are impacted where they were designed for as development is occurring on the waterfront, because that's going to happen.
Right. And just to add to that, one of the recommendations in the policy will be to any new CRA would have to have a CAC, because many of them don't right now. So that would be a requirement as well per the law. Not all of them do.
They don't have advisory committees?
Not all of them, no. But we will make sure that anything moving forward would have an advisory committee.
And the beauty of these advisory committees, and I call them the CRAC, C-R-A-A-C, are that.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly the infusion of dollars is there, but there's nothing more important than having the advisory committee. And if we don't have that, we should be accelerating that even before any kind of review period. They're missing the real essence of a CRA without it. I mean, clearly.
And we had this conversation with Pinellas Park, and they're going to be establishing one for theirs. And, so it is something, and I know that in South St. Pete, we actually have appointees. You all have appointees to that CAC, so.
Well, I think we should on this one, too.
And that certainly can be part of the conversation once they come back with a plan, for sure.
Commissioner Justice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did want to ask about the community board, so that's good. So the city's recommendation, because I looked at the map on that slide and then the one with the red and the one with the red and the yellow. What we're calling 6 is not in the city's recommendation?
It should not be in the city's recommendation, correct?
I got a little turnaround on all the maps.
Yeah, there is a piece north of here that was included as part of it as well. And but that's off the map, off of this map. So that was north of Sunset Point.
And, traditionally in the old days, it was, there was a laundry list of infrastructure improvements, intersection improvements, maybe a parking garage, those, and then the St. Pete one, we changed dramatically with, people-based services. Do they have a laundry list that they've been talking with you about as far as both of those things, or?
Not specifically yet. I'm sure they have a laundry list because they have been working with the community so closely throughout this process, which is now a couple years probably. But no, we haven't talked specifically about the types of projects.
Would we see some of those or have an idea at least, or, before it comes to us for approval?
I would say that most likely, I would say I would expect them to bring their plan forward. We'll be watching and get drafts of it and things like that. So if there needs to be another briefing in advance of coming to you all for a public hearing, we certainly could entertain that at that point. But
or at least, structurally and categorically what it's going to be, and not just,
yeah.
That's what killed one of the requests a few years ago, was that they did bring forward a list and we didn't like the list, and so we pushed back, and then it kind of fell apart. So that's where I wanted to see. And then the other thing that was interesting is the section of unincorporated in that piece. And I don't know how deep we want to get into a conversation about how I don't know that specific slot very well. But if that is in their plan of annexation, then I think that's at least a little bit of the conversation we should have before 3 years from now or 5 years from now, or, before it gets too far down the road. That's, we go in eyes open kind of thing.
And we have had discussions with them regarding the annexation, those areas. And at this point, I think outside of them making an extra effort to try to get annexation agreements in the next year, most likely the CRA would be adopted with those unincorporated areas included within, or excluded, but generally within the boundary. And unfortunately, at least from our discussion so far with legal, it's just there's not a really easy way to, for lack of a better term, preemptively include, unincorporated areas into a CRA without going through like an amendment process. So we'd still probably have to come back to you all for that.
And completely side note, a few weeks ago, I asked about the potential for us, maybe it was in our strategic planning, I don't remember, asked about us having a discussion as like annexation 101 again, and I don't know what technically creates a enclave or not, but I don't know where we are in the county more. We've got little spots, beyond like Lellman or Feather Sound or Palm Harbor, but there are still spots around, and if we've done anything proactively or just kind of letting it roll.
If we have been talking quite substantially with planning at the City of Clearwater regarding that series of enclaves all the way up to the city limits to the north. And some of them, we have informed them that just based on annexation patterns over the last, 10 years probably, some of those areas are likely to be that enclave A now, because it was never meant to be a static. We identified them several years ago, but it was always assumed that as annexations occur, more enclaves could be created. That would then essentially allow more flexibility to annex for the city. And we have, talked about the annexations, and I do think, we'd be glad to come back and give a presentation or discussion about, because I've had to learn it recently too, so.
Yeah. Yeah, well, keeping in mind that there are a lot of people who don't want to live within a municipality, rules and regulations, so that's.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Commissioner Seal.
Thank you. So I guess I'm puzzled. So the city is not asking for this waterfront area to be added or not?
It has already added it.
Pardon?
It has already adopted this boundary, which includes the waterfront area. But ultimately, it will be your decision as to what all or part of that area you wish to delegate redevelopment authority for.
1, 3, and 5 are part of the city's plan.
No, I
Yes.
see that. Okay, but then the map of the
Not
waterfront area, which was north of Jones on slide 5.
That is already part of their
That is
boundary?
part of it.
Yes,
I've been
ma'am.
going back and forth to the maps trying to,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. All right, because it doesn't look like it's part Okay.
Yeah, the boundary gets a little odd there at the bottom, but this is all included within the boundary that was approved, this
Okay.
whole area.
All right, the other question I have, and this may be a legal question, but is there a reason why we could not contribute in the county areas, the TIF, towards specific projects within North Greenwood? I mean, because
Yeah.
if we are trying to, improve slum and blight, then that could give additional dollars for, say, job training or for some of the other uses that we've approved in other CRAs. Just a thought.
Right, for the TIF to be included automatically, it would have to be included in the CRA boundary. And really, some of the policy considerations there is you would be giving up planning authority for those unincorporated areas, at least insofar as the CRA is concerned. You would still retain authority over zoning and land use and those types of things. So I could see that creating a bit of confusion as to who's in charge. But really, the only way to allocate that TIF for those unincorporated areas would be for them to be included in the CRA.
And frankly, we are gathering more information about this. There are some examples of multi-jurisdictional CRAs. It does look in those instances to be similar to what you're proposing, which would be a municipality would operate the CRA and the county would agree to, allow their unincorporated parcels to be within the boundary. But ultimately, it would be that it's the city's board that would operate the CRA.
Okay. I might be an interesting approach, so.
Well, I thought when we were talking St. Petersburg, I thought an interesting approach was to take some of downtown and put it with the CRA, Southside CRA, so that they would actually get some funding quicker. They thought it was rather humorous, I guess. But I mean, the idea here is to really help this area grow quicker. And I think, if we start parsing out areas, I mean, when downtown Dunedin was done, or any of these CRAs have been done, there have been some areas of blight and some areas that weren't blighted. And I don't think we should get in the game of picking and choosing. So, but I do think we need to get a real good feel for what their plan is. I mean, and I think, like Commissioner Flowers said, I have a lot of confidence in their intent, but it is 20 years long, and there are other people that will be minding the store. So that intention of what they're going to do with the funds is going to be very important.
Agreed, and I do hope that our updated policy will at least give you some reassurance as to an opportunity after 10 years to, actually take a serious look and potentially make adjustments.
Is that 10 years just what we've created?
It's what it's kind of like what we do now with the mid-year or the mid CRA. So,
but we
it's the same idea.
could amend that too, could we not, and make it a 5-year look? I mean, we'd like to see things that are moving in the right direction sooner than 10 years.
Ultimately, what our proposal right now is, and we'll be coming back for more discussions about it, is that, annually, because additional information will be provided to us, additional commitments will be made up front, that we will be coming as staff to you all to basically give you an update on an annual basis as to how these CRAs are performing. Now, as far as you having an opportunity to make an adjustment or a change, right now we're saying that would occur at the 10-year.
But we could certainly let them know how we're feeling
You certainly
about
could let them
things.
know.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Which would affect things in a few years after that at the formal review, so.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments? I think what you're hearing is 1, 3, and 5 is the kind of the thought here, so. And we'll hear more from you about this.
We will be back hopefully in May with the item.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Barry, I guess we'll go. It's 11:20, so I think the idea was to be done by 11:45, so we still have time. We can get through the agenda.
All right.
And then the only thing we'll have to tackle after lunch is our delegation meeting.
Okay, item 1 through 5 are presentations and awards. Going over to public hearings. Item number 6 is a request from Tarpon Springs for 0.58 acres. This is an area that they it was recently annexed, and they want to use it for a public works storage facility. Item number 7 is a change of 9 acres. This is in 2 parcels. What they're doing is combining this, but they want to change the zoning on one piece to where they can take administrative offices and turn that into a clubhouse for the mobile home park. And this is from the city of Clearwater. Item number 8, you've seen a lot about. This is for the area down in the city of St. Petersburg. There's going to be a request to continue this until May the 11th. They have to make that at the meeting. Unless you want me to go into any detail on it.
Yeah, Commissioner Justice.
I mean, there's no objection from staff to doing that or from anyone else. I mean, I don't want to get surprised on Tuesday that we actually go through the hearing on this.
My understanding is there's no objection, but since it has already been publicly advertised, the message sent to the applicant was to show up and let you all make the determination that it's appropriate to continue the case.
Okay. And do we know, I know we're going to defer, but just putting it, do we know if we've gotten any kind of report from DEP or as part of the work that they're doing on the land as far as the plume that was there? Do we know?
Tom, do you know? Evan? Go ahead.
They have a pump and treat plant at the south end, and I know it's not part of the development, but what the progress and status of that treatment plant is?
I know that we have some of that information that should be part of the staff report, but I'll follow up before Pinellas staff and just make sure that, that we have all that for you. But it was not discussed at the last meeting that was held with the Fort Pinellas board specifically as far as the treatment plan and the status of it, except that it was continuing and would continue because that treatment plant will not be included within the amendment area.
Okay. And then the second part would be, and again, I know we're talking about it in May, but some of these things will take a while, is our CVB staff involved with this project at all? We had talked about a separate facility over the last several years, and this is a little bit different, a modified plan versus what we had talked about in comparison to some of the other parks that have been built around the state. And I didn't know if our CVB staff had evaluated it and said, this is exactly what we want, or this is, or what, if they made an evaluation of the plan as a whole.
To my knowledge, no.
I'm not aware of that.
This was a separate proposal than what was being looked at originally by our CVB.
Okay.
Commissioner Gerard.
Now, just to comment on that, they are using the study that we paid for through the CVB, although I don't think the CVB has anything to do with this project.
Right. I just was, Mr. Chairman, I just was curious if,
I'd be interested to hear their opinion.
if
as well.
the one that the CVB brought forward several years ago was a 500,000 square foot facility, and this is a 100,000 square foot, and I don't know what the numbers are, but is it comparable
150,
type of a plan of what some of our staff really wanted us to go down the road on a few years ago?
Well, and remember, we kind of put that study on hold. So they were working, and they had the concept, but they put that on hold pending the outcome of the pandemic and trying to see exactly where the market's going and what that would be. So I'll check, but I don't believe they've done any work on looking at this site to whether that meets a market segment or not. I think this strictly was done by the company working with the city of St. Petersburg.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Item number 9, this is the county's portion of the Largo Tri-City Special Area Plan. So back in December, you approved Largo's portion, and this is ours. Item number 10 is a vacation of a portion of a 7.5 foot wide public utility and drainage easement. Staff has no objection to the vacation request. Item number 11 is local state of emergency, 12 citizens to be heard. Items 13 through 19 are items for the clerk of the circuit court. Items 20 through 24 are miscellaneous items received for filing.
Hey, Barry, I'm assuming under the state of emergency is where we're going to have the discussion about the...
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Item number 25 is a plat for Sunset at Landsbrook, second replat of a private residential subdivisions, replatting 3 single lots and 2 single-family lots. Item number 26 is an award of bid to Keystone Excavators. This is for Crystal Beach repaving and drainage improvements. This project goes back some time, back to 2016, so bringing that forward. Item number 27 is an award of a bid to RJP Enterprises. This is for sidewalk and under drain replacement projects. This is in addition to the existing contract, so expanding out some of our curb and sidewalk work. Item number 28, this is our portion of paying for our portion of the data. It's an annual contract with USGS. Item number 29 is a ranking of firms for stormwater professional engineers for all of our capital improvement projects. Item number 30 is an award of bid to Southern Underground Utilities. This is for a force main and air release valve replacement project at Hamlin Boulevard.
So under item number 31, this is an interpleader action that has been filed against the county. For any of you that have a burning desire to know what interpleader is, it's an action where a single plaintiff can bring in multiple parties that may have claims to funds through a single action, as opposed to multiple lawsuits. This involves some proceeds through our EMS system that we would potentially be entitled to. Under 32, this is a negligence action arising from injuries alleged to have occurred by tripping over an electrical box on our sidewalk. Under item 33, this is another negligence claim, again, trip and fall on a sidewalk. 34, same action, trip and fall on a sidewalk. And in number 35, this is an action to set aside a trust in which Animal Services has been named as a beneficiary, and therefore the county has been named as a defendant.
Item 36 is actually more stimulus funds for our airport. Item number 37, this is a statement that we did not use eminent domain for the purchase of the property where the Tampa Bay Innovation Center will be, the incubator. Item number 38 is a resolution expressing support as a qualified tax applicant for economic development ad valorem tax exemption. This is for an existing medical manufacturing facility in St. Petersburg. Item number 39 is a continuation grant with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for $1.5 million.
Barry,
Yes.
I'm sorry, back at number 38. So they're looking for a tax exemption on, some clarification on that, but it's for, they're estimating 10 new jobs, and I don't know, does it
Correct.
say how many jobs they currently have? And then they're talking about at pay scales at 75% of the average wage. So whatever the average wage is, this is going to be less, these 10 positions are less than the average wage is what I'm reading. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, they're guaranteeing that, yes.
So, what's that?
That's the minimum.
Okay. Could you just find out like how many jobs this is? I mean,
Yeah.
if they have 10 people and they're adding 10, that's a big deal. If they have,
Yeah.
so I just was curious.
We'll provide some more detail on that. Obviously, they're making an investment of the additional building that they're building. But we'll get you more information regarding the wages and the number of jobs that are there and what they'll be adding to that.
Thank you.
I think I covered the next one. Item 40, this is a grant agreement with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. This is a re-nourishment. This is the fourth one for Pass a Grill. And this is the state money that we'll be bringing in, the partnership with the state.
Barry, on number 40 you're talking about?
Correct.
Oh, it says here it's the federal, I didn't,
But the cost share is 62% federal.
Okay.
And but we get, this is through the agreement with Florida Department of Environmental Protection. They fund up to $940,000.
okay, all right, thanks, Barry.
Item number 41 is change order number 1 to an agreement with TLC Diversified. This is for a forced air main air release valve replacement. This is in the Highland Lakes area. So this is a change order due to unforeseen conditions. Item number 42 is a subsequent designation for the local workforce area and continue, let's see, the designation with CareerSource. Item number 43 is a budget amendment. This is with the Supervisor of Elections. This appropriations needed is to procure automatic tabulating systems. As they do these recounts, this is a much more efficient way of doing that, and where we see the likelihood of recounts increasing, and therefore she made this request. It makes cost-effective sense because we're spending a lot of time to be able to do that when they have to do it. So, and lastly, item 48 is an appointment to Suncoast Healthcare or Health Council. This Board of Commissioners as a whole.
Barry, let's go back to 44.
I'm sorry, these are county attorneys. I skipped over that.
Under item number 44, this is an action where I'm asking the board to ratify authority that was granted by the chair on an animal cruelty case that we needed to take immediately. So this is a request for the board to ratify that action. As a piece of information, I will offer that unfortunately I had to approach the chair again this week on a separate animal cruelty case. That case will be coming forward to you for ratification, I believe, at your May 11th meeting. On item number 45, there is no longer action needed by the board on this matter, but the agenda was already published at the time that we found that out, so it still appears there, but there is no action necessary on 45. And then 46, again, is a placeholder that we have included for a discussion on redistricting and questions should they arise.
47, I'll have County Administrator's report, and then we have the one appointment.
Yeah, anything else under County Commission? Anybody have anything they'd want to talk about? The only thing I would just say is two things. One is the meeting in 2 weeks, which is our next workshop. In the note that I sent out yesterday, I said, in the subject matter, it talked about some items today, and also some items tomorrow, but I didn't talk about it. So I just wanted to make sure everybody realizes that on the 22nd, it's going to be an extended meeting. We'll have lunch, but there's a number of items that we really have to get to. Probably, I don't know what the estimated time is, but it's not going to be 12 or 12:30, so we'll break for lunch and it'll probably go to 2 or 3. I mean, we're not going to extend it any longer than you need to, but there are a number of things that we have to get to, so.
Commissioners, yeah, over the next several work sessions, several items are coming forward where, there's staff work involved in finalizing reports and bringing those to you. So they're kind of stacking up. And so we have some agendas that are pretty full. The next time we're going to have the 6 independent taxing districts doing their budget presentation. We're going to have an update from each of our assistant twos regarding the work they're doing in unincorporated county and kind of their plans, the results of the recycling study out with Paul Sacco, the power purchase agreement, new FEMA flood maps, Penny Forest status report from planning, and then also trail access that you asked.
If you could maybe just send out a little note on that ahead. I mean, I don't know when it's going to be published, but just give everybody a heads up on.
I'll send out an updated.
Okay.
The problem with publishing a work sessions is it will change as staff's reports are ready or not. But we'll certainly send this out at least for the next 2, and that way you have an idea of the volume of the agendas.
And then the last thing I just wanted to ask real quick. I don't remember if we had the discussion. I know we had it last year, and I don't remember whether we had it this year on decision packages and whether our push was not to bring decision packages as a way to minimize stress on the budget. But I don't want to presume any of that because we've been getting notices that those deadlines are such and such, so.
So I'll take responsibility for that because we did not talk about that. And so, but Bill said if we're going to have decision packages, well, then we need to have them in, now. And so I said, well, absent a discussion from the commission, you can always choose not to, review or fund decision packages. And so we said, we'll go ahead and be inclusive that if you want to submit them, you can, but then I'll bring it before the commission or whether or not you wanted to. Last year, we were facing uncertainty because of the pandemic. I think we kind of understand where things are at. Financially, we're healthy. Not quite the impact that we had. But again, decision packages are something that you have to discuss as a commission. So that's the reason we sent that out, only because we didn't have time in which to have this discussion with you.
Let's just think about that and talk about that at our, on Tuesday, just briefly at the very end of the meeting and give you all some time to think about that. And let's talk about that at that part of the meeting under County Commission New Business.
Okay.
Unless you guys have any thoughts today, I'm open to it. Yes.
Thank you. So you need them like yesterday if we wanted a decision package?
We put out some timelines because we have to evaluate them as we do any budget request, and then ultimately incorporate that into our budget recommendations. So we needed that time, and that's the reason I went ahead and had Bill send that out.
Okay. And it is April 22nd.
Okay.
Is what
Okay.
that deadline. So
Yeah, that's on me. I missed that deadline message, and I think we should all be cautious. But again, it's a philosophical thing that I don't think we should just say commissioners don't do any decision packages and make that en masse. Philosophically, I don't think that's a policy we should have. If there's an issue that one of our commissioners sees the need for funding that we might be able to do, I think that should remain an opportunity and availability.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
we'll just briefly chat about that on Tuesday at the end of the meeting. And without further ado, we are scheduled to get started at 1 o'clock, and everybody's on their own for lunch today. So we'll see you and start the meeting right promptly at 1. Thank you. This meeting's adjourned.